So finally the time has come now, and I never anticipated that we will have this much of crowd on Monday, working day. So thanks to you all for being here and making sure that this session is going to be very fruitful for everyone. So from we become the study circle, and this circle is always getting help from Cork Temple. So we keep on asking monks from Ramakrishna Mission in Dublin to come here and give some session on spiritual awareness and all those things. So I will say thanks to you, to both Reverend Maharaj, that you are here, and we are going to have this session. So before I start the introduction of both the Maharaj, I will like to go through the couple of slides to show what we are doing as a Vivekananda Study Circle and how we are progressing forward in the spiritual journey, spiritual awareness for everyone. So last couple of months, we had few sessions from Reverend Maharaj from Ramakrishna Mission, Dublin, and few Maharaj also visited to Cork from India. So we had Swami Sarvapriyananda Maharaj, who is head of Ramakrishna Mission in Delhi, now in Gurugram. So he was here. He gave us a lecture on the spiritual awakening, and he spent some time in the Cork temple for almost 1 hour, and he also did the worship in the temple. So that was a very good blessing for us, that we were able to see him face to face and get some spiritual advice. Also on 24th of August, we had Swami Suhitanandaji Maharaj, who is a vice president in Ramakrishna Mission Order. So he was here, and we were very blessed that he was here with other monks, and we were able to get his blessing, as well as we had some Ram Nam Sankirtan, we had some discourse, a spiritual discourse. So that was a very good session, I would say. And in December, we also had Swami Shantivatananji Maharaj in Cork. He conducted a small worship as a Deep Puja for Ma, and we also had a spiritual session on that day. In month of March, again, we requested Maharaj to come to Cork, and that session was very amazing. We had around, I would say, not 45 people, it was more than 45 people. It was full house, I remember, in the temple. And we had a very good session, body, mind to consciousness. And thanks, Maharaj, for your time to coming to Cork and giving us advice and a spiritual journey. So I will request Shantivatananda Maharaj to come on the stage, and I will let you know what next in the session. Maharaj, please. So Swami Shantivatananda Maharaj is a minister in charge in Dublin. He is a doctorate in philosophy, and he has been here in Dublin for almost 4 to 5 years now. Yeah. And he has been coming to Cork, giving us spiritual advice every quarter. So we have made a plan that every quarter when he is coming here, we will progress our journey. We will go one step ahead in our spiritual discourses. So thanks, Maharaj, you are here. So thanks for giving me your time. Now I will request Swami Sarvapriyananda Maharaj to come on stage. I will say I am not that eligible enough to say any single word about him, but still I have to.
Thank you.
So before we start, how many of you have already watching his videos on YouTube?
How many?
So I was searching about Maharaj yesterday on Google, YouTube Swami, and his name was coming on top. So he is famous as YouTube Swami all over the world. So Swami Sarvapriyananda Maharaj, he joined the Ramakrishna Mission Order in the age of 23. He is also an MBA graduate from XIM Bhubaneswar. And in 23 years of age, he joined the monastery. and he was a principal in Ramakrishna Mission School, Devghar. He was also a registrar in Vivekananda University in Kolkata. Maharaj was Acharya in the training center in Belur Math, where the novice brahmacharis, they go through some rigorous training. So Maharaj was Acharya there for around 8 years. And we are lucky that one of his students is sitting next to him. Swami Sarvapriyananda Maharaj was a student from Maharaj Sarvapriyananda Maharaj. So after that, Maharaj went to Southern California. We have a Vedanta center there. He was working as an assistant minister there. And after 1 year, he moved to New York, and he is a minister in charge in the Vedanta center in New York. So for 5-7 years, more than 5 years, he is there. And you must be listening to his YouTube videos and audios. And he is very popular all over the world about the philosophy of Vedanta, the non-dualism and everything. So we know that today we are going to have a session on, I just want to go to a slide. We are going to have a session on the infinite witness, a journey into inner awareness. So Maharaj, before I start, I will request Maharaj to you if you can just say a few words, and then pass on over to Maharaj, and we can start the discourse.
Thank you, Saurabh. Dear all, as you know that from last more than 3 years we are running Vivekananda Study Circle. The aim or the goal of this Vivekananda Study Circle is to spread the Vedanta, the non-dualistic philosophy for the people across the globe and across the race and culture, and especially here, Vivekananda Study Circle pertaining, it is for Cork people. Almost every 2 or 3 months we are having a program either in Hindu temple or in some devotee's house, sometimes in community house. All of you are welcome to join our programs, and we have got a dedicated WhatsApp group also called Vivekananda Study Circle. You are always welcome to join the WhatsApp group so that you will get the program updates. If time permits and if you have got interest, you can join our Vivekananda Study Group activities. And today we'll be hearing a wonderful, enlightening talk and invitation to witness. Who am I? We all want to be happy. We all want to be peaceful. How much ever we try, sometimes, yes, it is possible, but it is very limited. So we are trying to find, we are searching different ways. We are trying to find out, is there any way by which can I be happy at all given point of time? Can I be peaceful at all given point of time? Quote unquote is at all given point of time. Not changing anyone, not changing any situation. Is there possibility? The question might have come for most of us at some point of life. Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta gives very confirmatory positive reply. Yes. You don't have to change the world. You don't have to change people. You don't have to change the circumstances in and around you. But if our wrong notion, wrong understanding, or wrong cognition about oneself, if that changes, I can be happy at all given point of time. This is what Advaita Vedanta is asking us to understand and put into practice. It is a state of being and not the becoming. So this will be the more or less today our talk. So I invite all of you for this enlightening discourse, and I also thank Saurabh and others for giving this opportunity. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yes. You can. All right. Let me start with a peace chant. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaste and good evening, everybody. My special regards and thanks to Swami Sarvapriyananda ji. He is the head of the Vedanta Society in Dublin, the Vedanta Society of Ireland. And it's because of him that last year I was able to come here to Ireland for the first time, and this time it's the second time. And this time also especially to Cork today. I'm grateful to the Vivekananda Study Circle here, Saurav and other members of the team, and also the temple that have been associated with this program. So that's why we have got them to thank. That's why we are all able to gather here together this evening and talk about the most interesting subject in the universe: ourselves. I, me, myself. That's a perennial favorite. We all love talking about ourselves, and that's what we're going to do, but in a very deep, analytic, a very deep philosophical way today. This goes all the way back to the Upanishads, perhaps the most ancient spiritual philosophical texts which exist in the world today. And there in the Upanishads, for texts which are supposed to be the basis of religion, but the discussions are very interesting, very profound, the great questions of humanity. What is reality? Who am I? What's the point of life? These are the questions. There are questions about the nature of reality. And reality, as we experience it, it has always has these two aspects. One is ourselves, and the other one is all of this, the subject and the object. That's how everybody experiences it. We experience it as I, me, myself, and everything else. So the questions in the Upanishads are also like that. There are questions in some of the Upanishads. For example, in the Mundaka Upanishad, you find the question, what is that by knowing which everything is known? Teach me, sir, that thing by knowing which I can know everything. One thing by knowing which I can know everything. The Sanskrit, I'll translate. I'll throw around quite a bit of Sanskrit, but I'll translate everything. You won't miss anything. Kasminno bhagavo vigyate sarvamidam vigyatam bhavati iti. Sir, what is that by knowing which one can know everything? That's a question about the nature of reality. Another track which I want to take, you find in an Upanishad called the Kena Upanishad. The word Kena means by what or by whom. And it starts with a question. These questions are very fascinating. A philosopher once told me, just a couple of years back, Swami, stay with the question. When we hear these questions, we are so eager to jump ahead to the answer. The little boy Nachiketa asks the Lord of Death, what happens after death? Do we still exist after death? Some people say there is nothing after death. Some say there is something. And who can be a greater expert than the Lord of Death himself, the King of Death, Yama? And the little boy asks the King of Death, what's there after death, beyond death? And we get eager. Yes, I want to know that. I want to jump ahead to the answer. What's that one thing by knowing which everything is known? Yeah, I would like to know that. That's amazing. I'll jump ahead to the answer. Who am I? What am I? Yes, I would like to know that. But this philosopher told me, stay with the question, Swami. Before you jump into the answer, stay with the question. Let the question sink in. Let it marinate within you. Soak in the question so that the question becomes your question. It becomes our question. It becomes my question. And then the answer will also take root in you. It will work for us. One of these most brilliant questions and very, very relevant today in this day and age where we are living today in the early decades of the 21st century. The Kena Upanishad, it starts with this question. Keneshitam padati preshitam mana kena prana pratama praiti yuktaha keneshitam vachamimam vadanti chakshushrotram kaudeva yunakti. Says, sir, what is that one bright being because of which I have thoughts, because of which I am able to see. I have the experience of hearing, of smelling, of tasting. Look at that question. Gaudeva, which bright being illumines me internally, because of which I have the experience of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, imagining, remembering, desiring, hating, enjoying, suffering. Basically the experience of life. What we might call the first person experience, the subjective experience, the inner feel which we have all the time. He's asking a question about consciousness, about the nature of consciousness, about the nature of subjectivity, about the nature of the self. He's asking a very deep, profound way, what exactly am I? What's going on here? That's the question. And we are still asking this question. Especially in the last 20, 30 years, consciousness studies has really taken off all over the world. For whatever reason, I mean, there are good reasons for it. One is, I guess, the new technologies that we have of imaging the brain, a much closer look at brain activity, much more fine-grained look at what's going on in the brain. So that's one side, the technological advances in neuroscience. But also other stuff, like I would say the development of computers, of now especially AI. The question becomes even more relevant, even more a burning question. Because now you have machines. We have these machines which are very much like us and yet utterly unlike us. They perform like us. They can drive a car, the Google car. The AI can now do your homework. That's the crisis. The first crisis was in schools and in universities like this. I am given to understand there were emergency meetings in the teachers. The problem was the assignments which you are giving to the students. Is ChatGPT doing it, or is the student doing it, or is it the student and the ChatGPT team doing it? Most of the time it's that one. There's an informal survey outside a university campus in England. How many of you are using ChatGPT for your work? They said everybody. Yeah, exactly. People are raising their hands. They said everybody, including the professors. So, and I talked to people from corporate. From who are working in Manhattan, Wall Street, everybody is using it. Everybody. In fact, you cannot not use it now. You'll be left behind. So now, philosophically speaking, you have a machine, this AI, which can write, which is creative. It writes stories. It writes your essays for you. It can communicate on your behalf. It paints pictures. It's making movies. It's composing music. And one time we were told that this computer revolution, machines will replace us with all the manual labor, the boring stuff will be done by the machines, and we human beings will be free to do human-like stuff. What's human-like stuff? Be creative, be artistic, science and art. And turns out, very ironically, that these machines are doing the high-end stuff and leaving the low-end stuff to us. We are going to do the scientific research. I was amazed. A little bit about that. A friend of mine who's a monk and a mathematician. He's very pro-science and a little anti-humanities. So when ChatGPT started writing essays and composing stories and all of that, he said, look, this shows that humanities are not a real subject. It's not a real branch of knowledge. Why? Because the machine is doing it. The machine can't do science. Science is real knowledge. We are making real discovery in can the machine do, can the AI do mathematics? So that was his point. But that's no longer true. I'm given to understand in recent years, AI has become a very important tool for researchers in various streams of science. And I was reading this Terence Yao, who is a famous mathematician, Fields Medal winner and all. He gave a version of AI a trial in And he tried it out. How good is it? How good is AI at mathematics? And his review was scary actually. He said, I would grade it at an average graduate student. Now, an average graduate student in mathematics, that's scary. I mean, that's way beyond most of us, unless you are a mathematician. So AI can do that also. So now, what are we in that case? See, what's a human being? Freud, the cynical old master, he said human beings have been humiliated thrice. First was the Copernican revolution, where we learned on Earth, we are not the center of the universe. We're just one more planet which goes around the sun. So we were displaced from the center of the universe. But at least we thought, well, we are the supreme creation. We are created in the image of God. Then along comes, this is all Freud, I'm quoting Freud. Along comes Darwin. And he shows us, you're not created in the image of God, you're created in the image of the chimpanzee. You're a monkey. So that was the second great humiliation. You're not created in divine image. You're an animal. But then Freud says at least one consolation remained to us. At least as Aristotle defined a human being, the rational animal. We are rational, the rational animal. You can see where this is going. Freud said, I have delivered the third and final humiliation to the human being, is that you are not rational. Your so-called rationality is just the tip of the iceberg under which lies 9/10 of your psyche, which is a teeming mess. It's a chaos of instincts, of lust and anger and greed and hatred and all primitive urges. That's what you are. Your so-called rationality is just a little tip of the iceberg. It doesn't define you. So who are you? What are we? Especially in the age of AI, when AI, and obviously we're talking about artificial general intelligence, AGI, which will, see right now AI is really good at some things and a complete idiot at everything else. So the same AI, it can drive your car maybe, but it can't write your essays. If it can write your essays, it can't drive your car. You can do both. You can write an essay and you can drive a car. Maybe not too well at either of them, but you can do lots of things. We can do lots of things pretty well. But they are now saying that, the computer people here know better. They are saying that AGI will do lots of things pretty well, just like us. And probably better than us. Probably better than us. So in that case, what distinguishes a human being? What distinguishes a human being from AI, from a machine? What's unique to us? Who am I? This question comes back at us with redoubled force. AI, that's one stream. Another stream was this consciousness which we have. What is it? Where is it coming from? The mainstream idea was that it's a product of the brain. We are the body. So the brain and the nervous system are generating consciousness. That's all. There's no big mystery in this. So there's no big mystery in this. That the brain and the nervous system are generating consciousness. A little less fidgety. So, I was talking about? Yeah, consciousness. That's what I always talk about. Yeah. So, what distinguishes us? So there's another stream to it, that the brain produces consciousness. Our materialist assumption that the brain produces consciousness, that was sort of orthodoxy until recently. But what they have run up against is what is called the hard problem of consciousness. This Professor David Chalmers, he coined the term. He's a philosopher from Australia, but he is the head of the philosophy department in NYU. One of the leading philosophers in the world today. If you Google 10 leading philosophers, living philosophers, you have to add that, otherwise you get Socrates and His name is bound to come up. He is one of the leading analytic philosophers in the world. He coined the term the hard problem of consciousness, which is an account of the functionings of the brain does not explain consciousness. You can get as fine-grained as you want in what's going on in the brain, but there is what is called an explanatory gap. What you will finally end up with are tiny electrical activity in the neurons. How does that translate into color and shape and pain and pleasure and science and art and rage and love and philosophy, Vedanta? How? You must explain that. There's a big jump. There's a big jump. I give the example of a vehicle production line. So when you look at the vehicle production, at one end you see all the parts coming in from different companies and they're being assembled step by step. Every step you can see until the actual vehicle rolls off the production and assembly line. Whereas in the case of consciousness, you will find brain activity, look as closely as you want, you will not find consciousness. It's only the person whose brain it is, the subject, they will report that I'm feeling things, I'm experiencing things, I have conscious experiences. The gap between that electrical activity and the reported consciousness, the subjectivity. Come on in, there's lots of space. Come on. So this gap is the explanatory gap. For these reasons, consciousness studies has become very important in our day and age. See, distinguishing us from AI, there is only one thing, as uncomfortable as it makes people, there's only one thing that truly distinguishes us from AI. As far as output is concerned, or behavior experience is concerned, it's consciousness. So why aren't AIs conscious? No, they are not. That's one thing that AI experts will tell you. We just have to look at the budget figures. How much budget for vision and pattern recognition and speech recognition and all of that, and how much budget has gone into consciousness? Nothing. Zero. Why? For good reason. One is, of course, the paymasters. They're not interested in conscious AI. It's only we are thinking philosophically, we are interested. But the actual people who are working on it and designing it, and those who are paying for it, they want the results. They don't want a conscious AI. That's one. Second, the actual people who are working on it and designing it, AIs and training it, they have no idea, not a clue. If you say, make this AI conscious, no idea. They don't even know where to begin. Or they know too many places to begin with. There is Robert Lawrence Kuhn, who runs the podcast Closer to the Truth. Yeah. So he has recently released a PDF where he has put together sort of an encyclopedic survey, a bird's eye survey of all the theories of consciousness. And there are 10 categories of theories, not 10 theories of consciousness, 10 categories of theories. That means we don't have a clue. You don't have a clue. What is consciousness? And it is the same question you find thousands of years ago being asked. What is it that's giving us first-person experience? I see, I hear, I smell, I taste, I touch, I think, enjoy, suffer, I'm awake, I dream, I sleep. What is that going on? What's that? What is that one bright being which enables me to have everything in life? For me, consciousness is everything in life. One of the leading philosophers of mind in NYU, the name escapes me right now. I remember once he rhetorically asked this question. Why is this an important question? The question of consciousness. Why is it important? He asked this way. There are many questions which are not solved yet in science, and somebody will get a grant. Not so easy right now. Somebody will get a grant. You're in the age of grant being slashed. But somebody will get a grant and say, find out what's consciousness, and they will find out what's consciousness. It's like some function of the liver, we don't know exactly what's happening, and then some researcher gets a NIH grant and they work on it and they find out what's what in the liver. Why is this important? It's a rhetorical question. So rhetorical question because he knows that this is not like that liver question. This is utterly central. What happens in the liver or in my knee? That's an important question, but it's not central to everything. But consciousness is central to everything. We are nothing without consciousness. And with consciousness, we are unique and everything. So what is consciousness? Really, this question, no matter how difficult. Not that these questions have not been asked and answered in the past. They have. But as Swami Vivekananda he said, these questions have been asked in the past and answers were found, but each generation must ask these questions for themselves and find out the answers for themselves. We are a generation brought up in the age of science. We cannot afford to neglect science. So neuroscience, artificial intelligence, all of these will have, they do have, we cannot ignore them. They have a bearing on our understanding of consciousness. Anyway, all of this is just to buttress my claim that we are asking a fundamental question once again in our time we are living in. And hopefully we'll make some progress. We are already making progress. The ancient question in the Upanishad, what is that one bright being which makes literally everything possible for me? Which makes me possible? What's that? I would like to understand that. And this fundamental question, the answer comes from the master. We don't know the name of the master, we don't know the name of the student, just the question answer. Answer comes from the master, and it's an amazing answer. Again, I'll repeat the Sanskrit back more for my benefit, but it's good to listen to the original Sanskrit. It's very, it's wonderful to hear those words. So it's so ancient and the Sanskrit of the Upanishads is actually pretty simple. It's not the later heavy-duty philosophical Sanskrit. It's very fresh, very vigorous. Shrotrasya shrotram manaso mano yat vachoha vacham sau pranasya pranaha chakshushas chakshur atimuchya dhira pretya asmad lokana bhavanti. An amazing answer. It answers the question, what is consciousness? And in the most direct way. And it tells us, if you do know the answer, what good does it do you? The result of realizing who am I, what am I? The way to realize this also, everything has been indicated here. And the rest of this Upanishad, I'm quoting from the Kena Upanishad, is just unpacking this answer, this amazing answer. But the answer is also clever, cryptic, elliptical. We'll see how. He says, you want to know how the ears hear? How do you have the experience of hearing? Yeah, that's what I want to know. It's because of the ear of the ear. And before you can recover from that answer, he says, you want to know how the eyes see? Yes, it's because of the eye of the eye. And you want to know how the mind thinks? Wait a minute. Student is intelligent. I now know. You mean the mind of the mind? Yes, the mind of the mind. You know how you have the experience of speaking? Tongue of the tongue? Tongue of the tongue. Tongue of the tongue, mind of the mind, ear of the ear, the nose of the nose, eye of the eye. And then he goes on further without giving any pause. Realizing this, one transcends this body while living here in this very life itself. So the result, how to realize it and how does one transcend, what's the result of all of this? Everything has been stated in one sentence. Now it's left for the rest of the teaching to unpack it. Let's take a closer look at the answer and see what we can discover for ourselves. Note the very interesting use of the word ear of the ear, eye of the eye, mind of the mind. It tells us at least three things right away. Three things. One, if you want to know what consciousness is, it is not the eyes or the ears or the nose or the tongue or the mind. What do you mean by that? So you're asking me, how do I see? How do I see? How do I have the experience of seeing? Now, one answer could be, pick up a book on ophthalmology. If you want detailed answers, go to the ophthalmology department. There's a whole department. There are experts. There are shelves and shelves of books, and there are journals and journals and papers being published. You'll become an expert. It'll take a few years to get a PhD, and you'll know how the eyes. But that is not the question, and that is not the answer. The answer does not lie in the eyes. That's what he wants to say. It is the eye of the eye. The first meaning of that is what you're looking for, consciousness, is distinct from the eye. The question you are asking cannot be answered by ophthalmology. Nor can it be answered by the study of the ear. What is that? Ear, nose, throat, doctor, ENT? Yes, it cannot be answered by that. The first person experience of sound, which we are getting right now, speech. I can tell you how sound waves come into the ear. I can tell you how what is that, tympanum? This is like school bell. And the membrane, how it vibrates, and how there are tiny, the cilia, which vibrates in the inner ear, and so on. And then the auditory nerves, which take impulses, they race along to the brain centers, and then you might ask, yeah, that's great. And then we don't know. What happens? Tiny electrical activity in a part of the brain. And then there's sound. How about music, orchestra, and sound and language? Don't know. How does it happen after that? We stop there. That's the last material thing you'll observe. And that's where the study of the ear stops. The ear, from there to neuroscience, and then stop. Okay? So it's not a question about the body, not a question about the brain, not a question about of your eyes or ears or tongue or whatever. Mind of the mind. That means it's not a question of psychology either. What you're looking for, it's a tremendous assertion. What you're looking for is not part of the mind either. If it was the mind, how are we getting all these experiences? One would have said it's the mind. Take a look at the mind. Go to the psychology department. They'll tell you how do you get first person experience. He's saying no, they can't tell you that. They can't explain consciousness. That's not within the purview of the mind. Already we are stepping beyond what is the purview of modern consciousness studies. If you ask modern consciousness studies, what do you guys study? They'll say we study cognition, we study perception, we study memory, we study pain and pleasure, and we study attitudes, whatnot. And here Vedanta is telling you all of that is psychology. It's the mind. It's the senses and the mind. It's still not consciousness. So that which gives us first person experience is distinct from the body, distinct from the senses, distinct from the mind. That's the first thing we take away from language like ear of the ear, eye of the eye, mind of the mind, speech of the speech. First. But at the same time, it also, the language is not something other than the ear, other than the eye, it's something quite different. No, it is ear of the ear. It's still using the word ear. Eye of the eye. That means it's right there, but what it implies is this consciousness is right there, illuminating, pervading these instruments and the mind and letting them do what they can. I love the example of electricity and gadgets. That's a good example. All these gadgets, here is the light illuminating the hall. There is the projector projecting that stuff there. There is there's a phone and a microphone amplifying sound. Now when these gadgets were in the shop, they didn't do it. The light didn't illuminate anything. The projector didn't project pictures. The microphone didn't amplify sound. What got into them that they're doing these diverse things? And you'll immediately say, electricity. Electricity, that's a no-brainer. That's what got into them. Electricity makes these things. Electricity is different from each of them, but it gets into them and makes them do what they were designed to do. Somewhat like that, the claim is being made that there is something distinct, which being different and yet pervades illumines, instigates all of these biological systems and makes your tongue speak, your eyes see, your ears hear, your mind think and imagine and remember and feel. So it is the ear of the ear. Being distinct from the ear, yet it pervades the ear and illumines the activity of the ear. It is the eye of the eye, it is the tongue of the tongue, it is the mind of the mind. The mind of the mind. This is the second thing that we take away from all of this. The third thing that we take away from all of this is there is one answer to all of these questions. It's all in, grammatically it's all in singular. The question was also in the singular. This is a small point, but it's an important point. I mean, I can tell you the number of philosophical positions being challenged here. One position is, this question is faulty. There isn't one answer to all of this. If you want to know how the eyes see, study the eye and the brain and you'll know how the eyes see. You want to know how the ears hear, study the brain and the ears, you'll know how the ears hear. And there is nothing common in them. That's a position. And this answer, question and answer are challenging that. They're saying, no, there is something common underlying all of them. There is something distinct, something unique called consciousness. You might say, what a ridiculous thing to say. Of course we are conscious. There is something called consciousness. We are aware, we are conscious. Who could even challenge that? You'd be surprised. There are philosophers who doubt that we are conscious. There are philosophers who say consciousness is an illusion. One of the leading philosophers, he passed away recently, very eminent philosopher, Daniel Dennett, he said something close to that. You're aware, right? We're all aware right now. If I bore you too much, you might go into a daydream, but you'll be aware of a daydream. We're aware. How can someone deny that? But there are people who are not shy of denying that. There are materialists for whom consciousness is a problem. If there was no consciousness, if we are all zombies, they'd be perfectly happy. Of course, they wouldn't be able to be happy because there's no inner happiness there. Consciousness is a huge challenge to the materialist reductionist paradigm. It's a huge challenge because you can't reduce it to something material. That's the problem right now. And therefore, one solution is to do away with consciousness altogether. So, that's where we are stuck. And here the answer, at least the claim is being made, there is something called consciousness. And it is fundamental. It is distinct from the body and the mind and the senses. And it pervades the body and the mind and the senses and gives us what we call the experience of life itself. These are the three things which we get from that language. Ear of the ear, mind of the mind, eye of the eye. So consciousness is distinct from the body, from the senses, from the mind. It pervades the body, senses and mind. And it is one reality. There is something, some reality called consciousness. Now, at this point, one might even say, all of this I knew. I mean, it's sort of common sense, isn't it? You might think so. But you would be surprised how common sense is very, very rare among exceptionally intelligent people. Philosophy works that way. They will challenge common sense and try to develop positions which are against what we call common sense. They're saying that you will find in philosophy how uncommon common sense is. Alright. There's water. Is that ice cream truck? That's how it sounds like in the United States at least. Now, if it is true that consciousness is distinct from the body, from the mind, from the senses, then notice immediately that all that attends the body, mind and senses will not affect consciousness. What do I mean by that? That's a tremendous assertion. The body ages, the body sickens, and the body dies. But if consciousness is not the body, is not reducible to the body, in that case, consciousness is not aging. When consciousness experiences an aging body, it's not consciousness which is aging, it's the body which is aging. One master, he pointed out beautifully. He says, when you're learning to drive and it starts raining, as it often does in Ireland, you have a windshield wiper. And you're a new driver, you see these big L's, the new drivers. But the windshield wiper starts and the new driver goes, and the teacher says, keep your eyes on the road. Oh, okay. Keep your eyes on the road. See, make a distinction between the mind and its activities and you, the experience of the witness consciousness. Don't move with the mind. Don't move with the body. It's the body which is aging and becoming older and older, not you. You don't have to move with that. You are the one who observed it. It is with age, it's the memory which is failing. The oldest member in our Vedanta Society in New York is Bill Conrad. He's 101 last month. And he said, Swami, my memory is not what it used to be. I said, Bill, I'm just a little more than half your age, and my memory isn't what it used to be. But remember, the memory is a part of the mind. It's deeply connected with the brain. As the brain ages, the mind also deteriorates. You knew the memory when it was keen and sharp. Now you know the memory when it's not functioning all that way. You are fine. You as consciousness are fine. Not the memory. The memory is deteriorating. You are fine as consciousness. You're okay, Bill. He said, small comfort, Swami, small comfort. Yeah, but it's worthwhile noting that all the movements of the body, the aging of the body, and the eventual death of the body is not the death of consciousness. We are not born with the birth of the body. We do not age with the aging of the body. We do not die with the death of the body. Huge claim. Huge claim. The fact that notice, one thing that all religions of the world have to claim, no matter how diverse they are, all of them have one common claim, that death is not the end. If you claim death is the end of everything, of what we are, in that case it's not a religion. It's some kind of secular thought system. Talking about Freud again, somebody said, psychoanalysis, this was way back in the 1950s, 60s. Why is it not a religion? It has its prophet, it has its dogma, it has its believers. Well, for one good reason. Because it's secular in the sense that for them death is the end of it all. There's nothing that's carried over after death. I mean, at least the old Freudian kind of psychoanalysis. Whereas every religion says something survives death. There's no religion in the world. It can't be a religion unless it says that there's something within us which transcends death. Here, you have for the first time a direct clue to what it could be. It is consciousness. It is awareness. Because it is not the body, because it is not reducible to the body, to the brain or nervous system, because it is not generated by the body, that's the claim. In that case, the death of the body should not mean the death of consciousness. Should not mean the death of consciousness. Even more remarkable, if consciousness is not the mind, you said mind not the mind, therefore not the mind. If it's not the mind, then when I'm feeling awful, the answer should be, you are not feeling, you are aware of the feeling of this awful feeling. You are not depressed, you are aware of the feeling of depression in the mind. It's like you are this vast blue sky, in which a dark cloud has floated up. The sky didn't become a dark cloud. It gives space to the dark cloud to come up. It's a movement in the mind. You were awareness, clear and transparent and vast, before the dark cloud of depression appeared. And your awareness during that dark cloud of depression. You are illuminating that dark cloud of depression. Because you are there, the dark cloud becomes visible and is able to do what it wants to do. And once the dark cloud of depression goes away, it's bright blue skies again. You're still the same awareness. Therefore, you as awareness, you're free of depression before the onset of depression. And you're free of depression after the disappearance, subsiding of depression. But it also means during the presence of depression, during the experience of depression, you're still free of depression. It's worth meditating upon this point. It gives you freedom from the mind. How am I free from depression even when depression is right there? I'm experiencing it. It's like a heavy load on me. It's terrible. Vedanta would say, the Upanishad says, the very fact that you are experiencing it shows that you are not it. You are the illuminer of it. You are the revealer of it. You are the light in which depression is experienced. If you were it, then you would have gone when depression goes. If you were it, you couldn't have existed without depression. But you did. It's a tremendous thing to know. I don't know if it will benefit patients of depression, but it can, if there's a mild case, I've been asked by counselors and psychologists, psychiatrists also, can it help? If it's a mild case, it might be a form of talk, what's called talk therapy. It might help. I'm sure it will help some cases at least. Unless if it's very organic and very connected to our biochemistry, then you would need some kind of support, chemical support, but otherwise it can help. So, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am awareness. By the way, one of the questions I started with, what distinguishes you and me from ChatGPT? Here is one thing. Central, consciousness, awareness. It can do everything that the mind and the eyes and the ears and the intellect and the creativity, all of them do. ChatGPT, maybe some kind of AI can do all of them. But one thing that they don't do is consciousness. So, we can discuss the theoretical possibility of conscious AI later on, but right now they don't do it. There's nowhere close to it at all. This distinguishes humanity, us, sentient beings, from machines like AIs, which are computers or programs running on computers. I don't know, I mentioned this a couple of days ago. I was so impressed. I saw this on YouTube. Phone call between two people. A hotel receptionist and somebody calling for somebody called Boris. This is a lady's voice. Hello, I'm from this hotel. What can we do for you? And the man's voice says, I'm working for Boris, and I'm here to ask about your packages for weddings. You're planning a wedding for Boris. And this lady says, I would like to inform you that I am an AI working for the hotel. And this man's voice says, oh, I'm an AI too, I'm working for Boris. And this lady says, oh, you're an AI, and so you can hear a delight in her voice. You're an AI too. Can we switch to Gibberlink? Gibberlink is their language, it's gibber-jabber, yes. It's an AI language. And then the next 1 or 2 minutes, you just hear whines and clicks and beeps, high-pitched whines. Do you remember? And those who are old enough here to remember the dial-up connections we had before the modern broadband and all, that whine and click, just like that. And it seems enormous amounts of data are being transferred back and forth between these two AI agents. And within 2 minutes, they have planned a wedding, which would have taken human beings days and weeks of calls and meetings and arguments and negotiations and back and forth. 2 minutes, done. And everything has been done. Pricing and packages and rooms and food and decorations and everything. Except, as a thing, and it's really impressive. And later I found out that it's an actual demonstration. So it was a tech demonstration, but it was a demonstration. The technology already exists. And they are saying it'll come within a few years, we will all have AI assistants. All of us. But they don't have neither Boris nor the hotel AI, they don't have consciousness. They don't have any inner first person experience. None of it. It's not there. Atimujya Veera, the enlightened one who realizes I am consciousness, immediately realizes I am not the mind, not the body. There is the mind. It's equipment. It's technology, biological technology, psychological technology. There is the body, but I am not it. No more than you are the car which you drove here. And the result is freedom. While living in this body, in this life, for the rest of your life, The aging of the body is not your aging. The sickness of the body is not your sickness. The little pleasures of the body and mind you're not dependent on them, nor do you crave them. You are the ones who make it all possible. You are the source of it all. Even the mind, I'm independent of the mind. This is a straightforward result which comes from this kind of thinking. Going forward, the moment that student hears this, immediately we are excited. I would like to know this. This is amazing. Is it true? Can I realize this? Can it become a fact for me? Please teach me. Oh, Master, please teach me. How do I realize I am pure consciousness, I am awareness, or whatever it is? And then the answer to this, the Upanishads are such an amazing literature. Everything is full of drama and depth. Look at the question, and now they look at the answer. Now look at the next answer. Please teach me. I am so convinced. I want to sign up. Where do I sign up for this course in consciousness? Course in being me. And the answer? Now, what is that? It says, na tatra vāk gacchati, na chakshur gacchati, na vāk gacchati, no manaha, na vidmo, na vijanimo, yathaitad anusishya. Teacher says, can't teach you. Why not? I have signed up for this on a what morning is it? It's a Monday morning, Monday evening in Cork. On a working day I've come for it, now you're telling me you can't teach me, why not? Well, because I don't know it. The teacher says, Navidmaha, we do not know it ourselves. There's a lot of depth to that. It's very surprising. You don't know it? Do you mean you're not enlightened? I didn't say that. But I said I don't know it. Know it, that means know it as an object. Let me know all stuff. He's actually saying something very profound about the nature of consciousness. We do not know it. Can I get a second opinion? Somebody else? Navijani, we do not know anybody else who can teach it either. If there's anybody says who can teach it to you, that guy's a fraud. Wait, why not? Because he says, the eyes do not go there. You can't see it with the eyes. And by extension, you can't hear it with the ears, you can't taste it with your tongue, you can't smell it with your nose, you can't touch it with your fingers. The senses do not reveal consciousness. Okay? I just want to understand it. The mind cannot comprehend consciousness. Now, manaha, not mind. But just tell me, now vāgacchati, words cannot express consciousness. Therefore, we do not know how it can be taught. Is it hopeless? The drama of it, you see, is it hopeless? Should I walk out? Is it then? And he says, next, no. Is it unknown, unknowable? Vivekananda teaching in London at the end of the 19th century, he would say, you must not go away from here thinking it is unknown and unknowable. It is more than known. It is that which is known first, up before which anything else is known. Consciousness is self-revealed first, and only then in its light is everything else known. So the teacher goes on to say, wait a minute, there is a way, which worked on us from time immemorial. Our teachers have transmitted it down, and I'm going to transmit it to you. Let's see if it works. And he's going to tell us right now. You can also see whether we become enlightened or not. He's going to transmit it to you. Let's see if it works. Listen carefully. Anyadeva tatviditadato viditadati iti shushruva purvesham yenastadvyachachakshire. This has been taught to us by the masters of yore. It has been spoken to us. It's been taught to us. What's that? What you're looking for? Yes. It's other than anything you know. Okay, I get that. It's unknown. I don't know it. It's other than anything that is unknown. It is other than the known. It is other than the unknown. What does that mean? You are asking what is consciousness. By the way, the teacher has not used the word yet. One may at this point ask, why didn't he directly say, what you're asking for is consciousness, it's awareness. There are many wonderful words in Sanskrit for that. It's something that these people, the ancient Indians, they investigated it and worked on it for centuries, if not millennia. And they came up with lots of words. Chit, pure consciousness. Chaitanya, consciousness. A word which is found in most Indian languages, Chetana. It's a name for girls also, Chetana. Name for boys would be Chetana. These are words very common in Sanskrit and in Indian languages. It just means consciousness. Empirical awareness, pure consciousness, ultimate consciousness. Bodha, consciousness. Samvit, consciousness. Chiti, consciousness. So various words are there. None of them, the teacher didn't use any of them. You might ask, why not? Why didn't the teacher just say, oh, you are looking for Brahman, Atman, pure consciousness? There's so many words. And these are in currency in India. Why not? Again, it's very skillful pedagogy. The moment you say, it is X, what will we do? Start looking for X. You start looking for that. If you start looking for it, you're already looking in the wrong direction. It's ever present. It is the one which is doing the looking. How do I turn the student's attention, his or her attention, back into yourself? Not into looking for something mysterious. So it's nothing in the realm of the known. What's the known? What you have seen, what you have heard, what you have smelled, tasted, touched, what you have read about, what you have thought of, what you have studied. That's the known. And the knowable, what you can ask Google. And Google will say, they'll tell you that. That's all knowable. But then there's a vast realm of the unknown, maybe unknowable. So is it that? No, not even that. By this, the teacher is showing us what we are looking for is sharpening our understanding of consciousness. Consciousness is not a known object, not an unknown object. In fact, consciousness is not an object. Consciousness is not an object. This is a huge step forward. David Hume, Scottish philosopher. Last year I was in Edinburgh and they took me up a mountain, and the path there is called Hume's Walk, I think, because David Hume used to walk there apparently, and later on it's been sort of memorialized. He says, when people speak of the self, I look for the self and I do not find it. I do not find anything corresponding to the self. I find perceptions, judgments, memories, thoughts. But where is this thing people call the self? But we know what's wrong right there. Because he's looking for something, the one who is looking is the self. You're looking in the wrong place. You're looking for a self as an object. Thoughts, perceptions, ideas, memories, conceptions. These are all objects. At this point, someone might say, it would help, Swami, if you were to define an object. What do you mean by an object? Anything that you are aware of is an object. If you see it, it's an object. If you hear it, it's an object. If you smell it, taste it, touch it, it's an object. If you can speak of it, it's an object. If you can think of it, it's an object. Somebody extra clever would say, you just spoke of consciousness. So consciousness is an object. But when you use the term, you now see why the teacher never used the term consciousness. If you use the term consciousness, if you think it's an object, point to that object, you can't. It's very interesting that when we say consciousness or awareness, we all know what we are speaking about. We're all aware, we're all conscious, but you can't point to it. You can't point to it. Saint Augustine, when talking about time, he says, if you ask me what is time, if you ask me what is time, I know not. If you do not ask me, I know. So there are these fundamental things, time, space, matter, even more fundamental, consciousness. We all know it, but if you ask to define it, then we can't. And there are good reasons why we cannot. So, consciousness is not an object. Objects are known or unknown, but neither is consciousness. Consciousness is not a known object, consciousness is not an unknown object. In fact, consciousness is not an object. Here, a very radical position is being taken up that consciousness is utterly unlike what we know. You can even develop the anti-materialist position here. Why would you claim with such confidence that consciousness cannot be explained by the brain? The neuroscientist Patricia, little jet lag, that's why I'm forgetting the name. Very famous neuroscientist. She says there's no use philosophizing about consciousness. If you want to understand consciousness, explain the mystery of consciousness, you just have to keep on doing neuroscience, and one day you will solve the mystery of consciousness. Vedanta says no, you can't. And it's not just Vedanta alone. There are more and more people saying the same thing. For example, David Chalmers. He says it's a category mistake to think that the investigation of any kind of object, like the brain for example, can explain what consciousness is. Because consciousness is radically not an object. So what's the argument? Why cannot, say, a scientist and a philosopher, he said to me, I think he said, I'm honest. He's a biologist. We cannot explain consciousness in terms of brain activity right now, but I can promise that in 50 to 100 years maybe, we will be able to explain it. On what grounds? He said, follow the logic, and then we'll see the reply from Vedanta. The logic is, life used to be considered such a great mystery. 100 years ago, people said that science will never be able to explain life. Well, today we can understand the bunch of processes which you call life. We understand it down to the molecular level. That's good enough explanation for me. Similarly, in 50 to 100 years, maybe we will be able to explain consciousness. Now I said that's a category mistake. Now look at it from the perspective of Vedanta. Everything that is experienced by consciousness is an object. Definition of object, anything you are aware of is an object. Life and the processes which generate life, they're all objective. So you have explained a level of a set of high level objects by more fundamental objective processes. That's perfectly alright in principle. But if you are now saying consciousness can be explained by a set of objective processes, you are already making a category mistake. It's a jump. He was not impressed by this objection, but Vedanta takes it very seriously. Consciousness is not an object. Our problem is, we belong, because of this age and the power and prestige of science. Look at our language. Objective. What does it immediately recall? True. Real. Objective, it's true. It's real. Be objective. That means be truthful. So objective stands for reality as it were. And if you say something is not objective, it automatically means, oh, you mean it's subjective? I remember Harvard, in the philosophy department, we were having this discussion, and a grad student looked puzzled at me. And he said, I see, but what you are talking about, perhaps it's poetry? I meant subjective, I'm talking about feelings. No. What I'm talking about is more real than the most real object, because the reality of that object is demonstrated to consciousness. The so-called sense of reality which you have about this world, that depends on consciousness. It is to consciousness that reality is demonstrated, established. In fact, Vedanta would go further. He said the sense of reality you have around you, it's borrowed from consciousness. Reality and consciousness go together. And what you see is the reality of objective universe, it's borrowed from consciousness. It's because you are present as consciousness, you feel what's presented to consciousness is real. They go so far as to do that. So, Vedanta says, listen to some of the stunning positions taken by Vedanta. Our modern approach would be what is objective is real. Because it's objective. It's an object. Vedanta's position is, if it's an object, it must be false. Anything objective is false. The word is an appearance. Why? Because it's an object. Why would you say that? On what grounds? There are very good grounds, as I will demonstrate very quickly. Very good grounds. What do you mean by an object? Straight away, an object is anything that appears to consciousness. So anything that appears to consciousness depends on consciousness for its experience, for its provability. And from there, the next step to an appearance in consciousness, dependent upon consciousness, is straightforward. The argument that Vedantists make, the world is false. Why? Because it is seen. Why do we say something is real? This bottle is real because I see it. That's why it's real. There's no elephant in the room. Why? If they're there, I would have been able to see it. So the elephant in the room doesn't exist. The bottle exists because I see it. Vedanta says, because you see it, the bottle is an illusion. Because it's an appearance in consciousness. The very fact, when you say, I see something, what does it mean? It appears in consciousness to you. It appears in consciousness. Anything that appears in consciousness is an appearance by definition. Jagat mithya drishyatva, because it's a drishya. Does not mean that it will not function. It will do everything that it's supposed to do. Science is upheld, but it still is a network of appearances in consciousness. Okay, now I will say what the Upanishad says next, and I'll bring it to a stop. The next part of the Upanishad is even more dramatic. It says, now the teacher says to the student, Yan manasana manute yena hurmano matam tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadinam upasate. What the mind cannot conceive of, but because of which the mind conceives of everything. That alone, know that to be the ultimate reality of the universe. Not what you worship here as this thing. I'll repeat again. What the mind cannot conceive of, but because of which the mind has all these experiences and conceptions. What is he talking about? Consciousness. Straightforward. Know that to be the ultimate reality of the universe. Brahman. The underlying, the ground of the universe. Not what you worship here as this. When you worship something as this particular image, as this particular, so is it a critique of the Hindu image worship? Is it that? And what an amazing thing he's saying. He's not only pointing out to the unique nature of consciousness as not an object, but he's saying consciousness is the underlying reality of all objects. Consciousness is the reality of the universe. We have come the polar opposite of from consciousness being an illusion to consciousness being the only reality. And the universe being an illusion appearing in consciousness. I'm making a big jump here, but we'll see. Somebody asked me to draw a path from our modern mainstream materialist assumptions of consciousness to the Vedantic non-dual consciousness. So I did it in 5 steps. I can see 5 steps from our common understanding or non-understanding of consciousness to the Vedantic understanding of consciousness. In 5 steps. And they're all 5 negations. 5 times no. Or in Sanskrit, neti, not this. 5 times. First one. Consciousness is not the body or the brain. Not the body. Number 1. What's the issue here? The hard problem of consciousness. Number 2. Consciousness is not an object. This is what the result we have received so far. We will come here. Anything that appears to consciousness is an object, and consciousness never appears to itself. So consciousness never is not an object. So that's number 2. Not an object. Number 3. As a consequence, consciousness is not the mind. Modern consciousness studies is basically study of the mind. But consciousness is not the mind, on the grounds that mind is an object, or is a series of objects. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, ideas, memories, these are all objects because they are experienced in consciousness, by consciousness. So consciousness is not the mind. 3. Number 4, we haven't gone there yet, but I'll just for the sake of completion. Number 4, consciousness is single. Consciousness is not many. Not many. I'm literally quoting Schrödinger here. And I didn't know Schrödinger worked here in Dublin. Professor Siddharth Sen was telling us he taught physics in Dublin. Schrödinger said, consciousness is that singular which has no plural. That's a very interesting issue. But anyway, I'm just saying this here for the sake of completion. There are no 2 consciousnesses. There's only one consciousness. It follows. You see? How does it follow? Suppose you accept consciousness is not an object. And if there are 2 consciousnesses, then one consciousness would objectify the other consciousness. Right? If they cannot objectify, then why are we saying there are two? It must be one. That's one way of approaching it. So consciousness is not two. It is not many, sorry. Consciousness is not many. And the last one is the most stunning one of all. Consciousness is non-dual, not two. That means there is nothing other than consciousness. That's the claim. Which means the other four are now modified or reversed. When you say consciousness is not the body, but now you're saying there's nothing other than consciousness, then in some sense the body, the objects, the mind, they all must be in some sense consciousness. In some sense. So this is the idea of consciousness as the underlying reality of the universe. Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi, knows that alone to be the ultimate reality. Consciousness alone to be the ultimate reality. I'll end with a quote from Galen Strawson. His father was a very eminent philosopher of in Oxford in the 1950s, 60s, Sir Peter Strawson, 60s, 70s, a master of analytic philosophy at that time, common language philosophy. And Galen Strawson is also a philosopher, currently active in UT Austin. In a sort of tongue-in-cheek piece he wrote for the New York Times, he wrote about the hard problem of consciousness. He said, there is no hard problem of consciousness. We have assumed that the brain produces consciousness. Then we cannot explain how the brain produces consciousness, and hence hard problem of consciousness. But why are you assuming that the brain is producing consciousness in the first place? We are conscious. That's the first fact. That's the fact before. That's a pre-fact. Like, I mean, I just invented a new term, like pre-boarding. That is before all facts, pre-fact, let us say. Consciousness is before all facts. Things which are presented to consciousness are what we call facts. So he says, we are all conscious, that is obvious to everyone. Doesn't matter what your philosophical position is. Matter is presented to consciousness. The question should be, what is matter? What is matter? And that's what physics investigates. And as we advance in physics, it is ironic, he said, he writes there, that matter seems to be dissolving back into consciousness. As physics becomes more and more and more advanced, we begin to see matter becomes very mysterious indeed. And somehow, in the study of physics, the observer has come back in. And it seems to be, this is something for physicists, I don't understand that stuff. So it is, matter is the one which is mysterious, not consciousness. And if you investigate matter, it seems to become sort of, the shadow of consciousness, if we will. So I'll leave it at that. Our nature, according to Advaita Vedanta, is that we are consciousness alone. If you ask why? Because whatever else we are objects presented to consciousness. Just as this is an object presented to me, and I don't think that I am this piece of cloth. I'm aware of this piece of cloth. Therefore, I am not this piece of cloth. In the same way, I'm aware of the hand, of the body. Therefore, I am not the body. Literally. If you could demonstrate that the body is producing neither consciousness, that would be a solid answer to what I'm saying. But here, that's where we are stuck. The hard problem of consciousness. We cannot demonstrate to anybody's satisfaction how the brain is producing consciousness. I have an extremely interesting but utterly mysterious invitation. Later, a couple of months later, in summer, in a city in Europe, a private group called by a mysterious billionaire to investigate consciousness. This is one of the leading physicists of the world, the leading neuroscientist, one of the leading neuroscientists in the world, one of the leading philosophers in the world, an artist, the person in charge of the leading AI project in one of the biggest companies in the world, and I'm a token drunk. And we're supposed to get together, talk about consciousness, and fight about it for 5 days. And then all of it will be put together in the hope that we get some new idea, new conception of consciousness. But that just shows, I'm very excited. Not that I don't think I'm going to become a very big breakthrough, but just that it's a great learning opportunity. But it's amazing that this is being taken so seriously. And ancient philosophies like Buddhism and Vedanta are now part of this 21st century dialogue. It's like we are talking to our forefathers, ancestors thousands of years ago, about the nature of consciousness. So the result which we arrived at here is consciousness is not a thing, not an object, nothing generated by the body. It's not even the mind. And it's not two. We are all one consciousness. What an amazing claim that is. We are all one being. Not just the brotherhood of man or the sisterhood of all women or what. No, much more than that. We are literally one. We are literally one being at the core of everything. That means all those are beloved to you. You are closer to them than you could ever imagine that you were. But all those you hate and you think you're enemies and you can't withstand, they are also you. Literally. Inseparable from you. All those who have departed, the old religious promise of being united with your close, they're not lies. They are not fantasies designed to please our weaknesses. No, in a deep metaphysical sense, they are already the truth. At the core, we are them, and they are us. We are already one with them. Not the bodies, not even the personalities, but what they truly are, and what we truly are is one consciousness. And beyond that, the non-duality of consciousness. That whatever we experience in this universe is not, I'm being very precise here, is not a second reality apart from consciousness. None of this here is apart from you. Sri Ramakrishna would say, a man climbed up an old house. Today we climbed up Blarney Castle. Blarney Castle, the tower. So we climbed up. And he climbed up, leaving the ground floor and the stairs behind, climbed to the roof. And then he found that what the roof was made of, the stones, the brick, the concrete. When he came down, he found that the staircase and the grounds, the first floor and the ground floor, they are all made of the same thing. Similarly, when you do neti-neti, not this, neti-neti, and go up to the top, to the absolute, you find the absolute, pure awareness, pure consciousness, pure being. Then when you descend back into this world, you find everything that you had left behind. The body, the mind, and the people, and the world, they are made of the same stuff. That same absolute is appearing to you as all of this. Put it in religious language, it is all God, or God awareness. Put it in philosophical language, consciousness alone is shining in all these ways. Ramana Maharshi would say, the universe is an expansion of the self. So first find out who am I, then the universe is explained. It's an explanation, it's an expansion of the self. Alright, thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. We have time for some Q&A.
Yeah. So we have a Q&A session now. So we will have a 15-minute session. So whoever wants to ask a question, please raise a hand. And we have volunteer who can pass on the mic.
In fact, you can come right up here and just the mic will be given to you. Yeah, come up here and queue up here. Come and queue up here if there's somebody else who wants to ask a question. Tell us your name and ask the question.
Very nice to meet you. My name is Rajkumar.
Rajkumar.
Yes. I get all what you're saying. I have been listening to some of your videos as well, and I understand. I get it. But to really feel it, yes, it is also possible to feel what you're saying. But for example, to really practice living like that, I'm really finding it hard. For example, I recently underwent a 18-day Bhagavad Gita class from a dual school, basically. What was discussed there? Of course, at Bhagavad Gita level, we don't need to get into duality or non-duality, to be honest. But what I feel is what was taught there in terms of doing bhakti every day and eating the prasad, doing nama japam, all of that sounds very easy to practice and practical. And what, let's say, this Advaita Vedanta, bottom of my heart says that is what is real.
Correct.
But somewhere, for me, this is more easier.
I think
that is what I wanted to get.
It's a good question, and I think it deserves a considered answer. See, as he said, what you're talking about, this non-duality stuff, somewhere at the bottom of my heart, I feel that this is the truth. However, it seems extremely difficult to experience it or to live it. Two different questions. Extremely difficult to experience it and difficult to live it. Two different questions. Is it extremely difficult to experience? The answer might surprise you. It is the easiest of all things to experience. You mean non-duality? The absolute consciousness, Atman, Brahman, Pure, is it easy to experience? It is utterly easy to experience it. How? You're already experiencing it. Are you seeing? Yeah. Are you hearing? Are you smelling, tasting, touching, talking, walking? Yeah, I am. Then you are experiencing non-duality. That's the position of the Kena Upanishad. In fact, the Upanishad will go on. A tremendous drama throughout the Upanishad. After making it more and more abstract, refining it, whatever the student says, the teacher says, no, you haven't got it, this is wrong, go deeper. After doing that, then the teacher says, he reverses the whole thing and he says, when you experience it in every experience of life, that is full enlightenment. Pratibodha veditam matam amritatvam vindate. When in every experience of life, what is every experience of life? Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, enjoying, suffering. Every experience reveals to you limitless consciousness. Then you are fully enlightened. In fact, the translation is, when in every experience it is revealed to you, that is full enlightenment, and that leads to immortality. That is immortality. Pratibodha veditam matam amritatvam vindate. You might say that's fantastic, but I don't get it. To get it now would require you listen to it again and again. Listen to it, reason through it. What exactly are they talking about? Notice how tightly knit this Upanishad is. The question started with seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting. And at every point the teacher is coming back to seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, thinking. Even at the final definition of enlightenment, Pratibodha, in every experience. What experience? Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting. If Brahman, Atman, pure consciousness is available to us in all the mundane experiences of life, if it is choicelessly available to us, freely available to us, effortlessly available to us, then only it's the truth. If it is something practiced, it's artificial. If it is something generated, it will go away. If it is always there, then it neither comes nor goes. Only thing is, it was not recognized earlier, now you see it. So, the first question, how do I experience it? The ultimate answer I'm giving you. There are many steps to this. There will also be Nirvikalpa Samadhi, there will be various kinds of mystical experiences, all of that is there. But the final answer will be, in every experience of life you experience it. Sri Ramakrishna put it in his very simple way. He said, when I close my eyes, God exists, and when I open my eyes, God doesn't exist. What kind of God is that? With eyes closed and eyes open, you experience. That's the final state, or the final realization. But you ask another question, how do I live it in my day-to-day life? That is not an easy question to answer. All of spiritual practices are there to help us to live it. That's why Vivekananda's very considered definition of spirituality is the manifestation of the divinity already within us. Very considered, simple, but very considered. He doesn't say knowledge of the divinity within us. He says manifestation. And he expands further. My mission in life can be put in a few words. It is to teach unto humanity their own inner divinity and how to manifest it in every movement of life. And that is difficult. That's the difference between a philosopher and a saint. There's a saying, if two philosophers agree, then one of them is not a philosopher. and if two saints disagree, one of them is not a saint. So, yes, one must transform this philosophy into spiritual life. And for that, all spiritual practices there, they are not contradictory to spiritual practices. So the bhakti that you do, the devotion to God, the faith in God, the pious acts, service to humanity, to all living beings, effort to discipline oneself, the moral life, all of them help in manifesting that divinity. They are not disconnected. It's not that one is an Olympian philosophy and the other one. See, the disconnect is terrible for both. If you disconnect morality and religion from this non-dual philosophy, what will happen is the morality and religion will be left without foundation. People will disbelieve. Why should I believe? It sounds great, but I can doubt it. There are so many, somebody said, there have never been so many atheists and agnostics in the history of the world as there are today. Because it's easy to doubt. Doesn't seem to be the truth. The problem is today, science and religion. On the side of religion seems to be meaning. On the side of science seems to be truth. This is the problem. It is Vedanta which brings back this non-dual philosophy. It's not just Vedanta, it's there in every religion at the heart of it, in some form or the other. It's just very explicit here. It brings back truth into the claims of religion. So if you divorce religion from this non-dual philosophy, then religion seems to be without truth, without ground. It can be doubted. And what happens to this non-dual philosophy? If you pull away every mooring of ethics, of the pious life, then it remains a pipe dream, something wonderful, a clever philosophy which I learned, as one Swami told me. If you do not have the moral grounding, then if you listen to non-dual philosophy, you just come away with the feeling, I learned a clever philosophy today, but it doesn't make any difference to my life. To live it, all these practices are essential. One good example is the life. Look at the life of non-dualists like Ramana Maharshi or Vivekananda. So they're deeply spiritual, deeply, uncompromisingly ethical people. So there's a deep connect. Yeah, thank you.
So I think you also quoted in one of the videos that both Vivekananda also said that basically combining all this is the best idea, like doing
Yes.
Bhakti, Raja Yoga.
Combination of the four yogas.
Yeah.
Yes, we go ahead. Please tell us your name and ask the question.
I don't have a question actually.
The microphone, sir.
I have an observation.
The microphone, sir.
Oh, yeah. I just asked you what am I saying
Okay,
here?
please.
No,
Tell us your
I
name.
actually don't have a question.
Could you tell us your name?
John Joyce. No, I don't have a question, I just have an observation. No, we know that Janana Brahman, consciousness is Brahman, consciousness is God.
Yes.
No, I learned that 80 years ago, not exactly these Sanskrit words now, but that concept 80 years ago, when I was in the infant class in school. And the teacher was a nun, the presentation nun. And she said that God has no ears, no eyes, no mouth. But I have ears and a mouth and so on, and God speaks through me. And our lesson really was that what we say, effectively, God is saying it. Our consciousness is saying it, is the words I would now use.
Yes.
Consciousness speaks, consciousness listens, and consciousness replies.
Yes.
And it replies through or the instrument that we are. Now, I think that was very insightful, that note to have that insight. And the reason that she was making the point was that we ought not to speak, we ought to speak the truth. We only ought to hear which was virtuous and worth hearing, and so on. So, I thought that was 80 years ago.
Yes.
And now I'm hearing the same thing roughly again.
Absolutely.
It's been confirmed after 80 years.
True. Beautifully put, sir. Because I was just thinking, when the nun tells this to the young children, it's usually told as a homily, as a moral instruction. Speak what is truthful. Say, don't use abusive language. Listen to good things. And which is true. But behind this is this most profound insight. It is God that has put capital C consciousness there. Through all ears is hearing, through all eyes is seeing, through all mouths is speaking. It's basically the Kena Upanishad, if you flip it around. Yes, absolutely. I'm reminded, Vivekananda said in one place, tell it to children, for they can understand.
And I did understand
Yes.
it then. I understand what you were talking about.
Absolutely.
But since then, obviously, my knowledge has matured, and now I understand that consciousness speaks, and consciousness answers. It actually speaks to itself.
Absolutely.
Basically.
Thank you
So,
so much.
thank you very much.
Tell us your name and ask the question.
Salam Guruji, my name is Dilip Jha, I'm from Bihar.
Yes.
I will take 2 minutes.
Okay.
I was inspired by one of your lectures in IIT on consciousness from Mandukya Upanishad, where you defined 4 attributes for consciousness.
Who am I?
Yeah. From there, I started following you. So, my question, because I'm from engineering background, I see consciousness as like a magnetic field or electric field which you can't see, which actually makes the electron to move or something like that. And I also feel that, that I breathe in consciousness and I breathe out consciousness. And that's the universal, I can go on and on. But my question is different from consciousness actually. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was actually trying to, find some questions and answers. And in Bhagavad Gita, there is a term called Swadharma, maybe self-duty. And my question is, like Ambedkar could not find the answer how to find your Swadharma in Bhagavad Gita, which actually he found the answer in, Buddhism, that be the light onto yourself. So my question is, the person who actually said be the light onto yourself, he had to go from Lumbini, Nepal to Bihar, Gaya to actually get enlightened. Couldn't he have enlightened within his own home? Why to have to go all the way to Gaya?
Yes. So that's the classic journey of the hero. You leave everything behind, his wife, his newborn son, his kingdom, and go into the forest, a prince. A classic story for the ages, for thousands of years now. Yeah. But if you see over the years, Buddhism itself, it is now not only for monks like Gautam Buddha, but for householders. Mahayana Buddhism became for everybody. So everybody can attain to enlightenment, to nirvana. But some specialists have to be there. Somebody has to be a pioneer like the Buddha, who strikes out. The truth is already known. The Upanishads, the Kena Upanishad which I'm talking about, was already ancient by the time the Buddha taught it. By the time the Buddha came and taught about Buddhism. He rediscovered the same truth and put it in different language, different philosophy, different approach, right? And it needs to be done. From age to age, somebody needs to set out and throw away everything in the past and then come up upon it again for himself or herself and then give it out to humanity. Remember, if you look closely at Buddha's teachings, you will find elements of Sankhya and Yoga there.
Yes.
And his teachers, if you see, he mentions what he learned from his teachers, which he did not find adequate, but his teachers, they were teachers of Sankhya and Yoga, kind of proto-Sankhya and proto-Yoga. Yes.
Thank you. If time permits, from your great teachings, actually, I have written a collection of poems, around 50 poems on consciousness and something which is about to get published.
Oh, wonderful. What are you calling it?
The book is called Lost in Life.
Wonderful. We'll look forward to that.
Yeah. So I don't want to take more time.
Thank you.
A last question, which I'm very curious, and you will have to forgive me for asking this question, but my curiosity is like a child, I love your name Sarvapriyananda, which the Belur Mutt possibly have given you.
Yes.
But why do you need an attribute Maharaj, which is greater king, which brings in a kind of small ego within a saint also?
Yes.
Can't you live just with Sarvapriyananda?
That also brings in a big ego actually. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So these are epithets that we give to monks. Maharaj is a Raja without a kingdom. Yeah. So there's a saying, nice saying I read recently, that a sadhu, a sannyasi is 1 घंटा fakir, 23 घंटा Maharaj. Is a beggar for one. A monk is a beggar, but is a beggar for 1 hour in a day, and a king for 23 hours a day. 1 hour a day when you go out to beg for your food, then you are a beggar. But the rest of the day, 23 hours in a day, you are a king, because You have no connections, you are utterly independent of anything and everything in this world. That's the structure of monastic life. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Tell us your name and ask the
Hello,
question.
Swami. My name is Abbas.
Yes.
And so basically, like I have been listening to you recently, like Digdrish Vivek. Recently, I listened to you, and I'm really inspired with Advaita Vedanta philosophy recently. So regarding the question, I have many questions and curiosities. But regarding the consciousness, like I would like to first ask, like as I understand, consciousness is one. So is it right to say, like in all the living beings and all the non-living beings, even in the table and glass, it's the same consciousness? So if consciousness is one pure witness consciousness, so why do we see this many diversity, like what, and consciousness is aware. So when we say consciousness is not an object, so anything which is thinking, which is feeling is an object. So consciousness, when we say it's aware, so why even we are relating it to be consciousness being aware of something, like, and consciousness is experiencing this diversity, like why so much diversity is there? And
Okay, let's take up one question. So don't add to the line. The line is growing because
We have a
we
limited
don't
time.
have we don't have much time. So let's take up one question. If consciousness is one, why is there so much diversity?
Yeah.
Now, one and many cannot both be equally true at the same time. So the Advaita Vedanta approach is one is the reality and many is the appearance. So on this one screen, you can show many slides. You can play any number of movies, any number, science fiction movies, comedies, tragedies, everything can be played. But the fact remains, those are all pictures, and the reality is that it's a clock screen. Similarly, Vedanta says the reality is whatever you see, this tremendous diversity, it is all grounded in one reality. There's one underlying reality, which is consciousness, in that special sense, not in our empirical sense which we experience it. You can even call it existence, sat. And that consciousness or existence, that chit or sat, you are, tattvamasi. That's the central idea. So the tremendous diversity, you can say, why is it there? It is the very nature of consciousness to shine forth in all these ways. Many answers have been given. It is the play of consciousness, Leela. It is the grace of consciousness to us for our spiritual evolution. You can give many answers. I can give you half a dozen answers. You can see any one of them. But the oneness of consciousness is not violated by the appearance of a diversity.
Like we say Maya or
Yes,
Brahman,
it's correct. That's the one word.
Yeah, but why like Brahman or consciousness being separated with Maya? Like that's the question.
It is not separated. Therefore, Maya is seen as the power of Brahman.
It's power.
Just the power of fire is to burn and give light. Or the light and the burning of the fire are not separate from fire. Similarly.
It's the same, but we call it different.
Yes, Shankaracharya says Shakti Shakti Mato Abheda, the non-difference of power and the power possessor.
Thank you.
Tell us your name.
My name is Chandan.
Yes.
I have this question regarding dreams. Like people say there is some chemical reaction and all, and that transcends into dreams.
Yes.
But sometimes some dreams are like, for example, I had a dream about a young festival. I never heard of it in my entire life, never seen it, but I was there and I had that young drink. I searched the day after I had the dream, what is young festival? And it's coming on like July 17th. So why like sometimes we have such a wild dream that, and we are feeling about all these
I
things.
understand.
We are there.
There's 2 points I'll make here. One is straight away from the Vedantic perspective, from the perspective of consciousness. All Vedanta is interested in is dreams are also objects presented to consciousness. Just as all this is objects presented to you, the consciousness, the dream is another set of objects presented to you, the consciousness. What is the content of the dream? Good or bad, known, unknown, wonderful or boring, doesn't matter. They're all objects presented to consciousness and you are consciousness. The most amazing fact is not the dream, is you, the watcher of the dream. That's what Vedanta turns its attention around. Okay, that's the primary point I want to make. The secondary point, you are asking about the contents of a dream. Usually the contents of a dream are from our subconscious. However, there are, as you said, there are sometimes things that appear in our dreams which cannot be easily explained. That's why we explain them away. Oh, Krishna, that is an accident or something. But you cannot easily rationally explain them. One answer from Vedanta is, just as we are, Vedanta says, not only are we one at the level of consciousness, but the oneness pervades everything, even this physical universe. It's an ocean of matter. It's one unbroken ocean of matter. There's one wave here, this is body, there's another wave there, that body. In between also is matter, thinner matter maybe. So it's just as this physical universe is an ocean of matter, Vedanta claims our minds are also an ocean of mind. It's not that our minds are unconnected. Our minds are connected at a deeper level. I talked about Freud. He would not agree to these things mostly, but his greatest disciple, Jung, definitely agrees that we share a collective unconscious. So there is a kind of worldwide web, universe-wide web of mind, not just computers, of mind. I think the computers are a beautiful shadow of what might be there at our level of our mind. So even our minds are interconnected. Therefore, it's not impossible. Something might come in from the cosmic mind or from other minds into our minds. In fact, I believe it is the case. Things do come and seep into our minds, and usually when our resistance is low in dreams, they may appear in our dreams. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes true, predictions into the future, what's going to happen, sometimes false. But it's coming not from our own mind, but being generated elsewhere. Thank you. Yes. Tell us your name and alphabet.
My name is Shorvani.
Speak with mic. Can you hear this question?
Can you hear my voice?
No. Closer. No.
Speak louder.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay, speak louder. Now, can you hear my voice? Thank you. I had actually two questions, and one of the questions I think you have answered already a few times. But still, I would like to ask you if I get a better answer, because I'm still confused about it. So, if I understood correctly that I am consciousness, and anything appears in consciousness is object. And you are appearing in my consciousness.
Yes.
And you are another consciousness, right? So I'm a little bit confused here, like how should I...
Okay, good questions actually. You said I am, by the way, when you started, you said I am conscious, no, I am consciousness. That's beautifully stated actually. All that Vedanta does is to force us from the position I am conscious to I am consciousness. Well said. Because I am conscious, nobody doubts it. Who doubts it here? But what we normally think is, I am this bundle of body, mind, consciousness. I am a bundle. I am a body with consciousness. I am a mind, I am a person who is conscious. This is what we normally say, without any kind of inquiry. Upon inquiry, Vedanta leads us to the position, I am consciousness. Yeah, the consciousness with a mind and a body and a personality, but I am consciousness. I am not a body, I am not a mind. I have a body maybe. I have a mind maybe, but I am consciousness. Now, Sharbani is saying that we further said everything that is experienced by consciousness is an object. Now she says, but I experience you. Swami, I experience you and I experience all these people. Presumably you, Swami, you are conscious. And all of these beings are conscious. Maybe there are other consciousnesses. Remember, we said consciousness is one. We'll see. Then how is it not an object? Clearly you are an object to me. In the sense, I'm not objectifying you, but you are an object to my senses. I can see you. I can hear you. If I were a telepath, I could see your thoughts. But notice, follow this carefully. Can you objectify anyone's consciousness? You can objectify, you can see their body, you can hear their language, you can watch their behavior. And if somehow you could know their thoughts, if it's telepathic or something, you could know their thoughts, even their thoughts would become an object to you. To what? To you, the consciousness. But that consciousness there, in that body mind there, will that consciousness ever become an object? Think about what it would be like if consciousness is an object. It can't be. It will never be. Consciousness never becomes an object. Therefore, when you look at others, yes, they are all conscious, but their body, mind, behavior, they are all objective. They are objects to you, the consciousness. But notice, very interesting, their consciousness does not become an object to you. In fact, not only does consciousness not become an object to you, other people's consciousness, their conscious behavior can be an object, but their consciousness is not an object. And try to think how weird, how unthinkable, unconceivable it is of what would it mean to objectify someone's consciousness. If you can do that, you are beginning to understand what consciousness is. It's utterly the subject, never an object. Everything else is an object to it. And therefore we claim consciousness must be one. If consciousness is two, then one consciousness would be the object of the other. But it's obviously not. So we are led to the radical position, we are different as bodies, we are different as minds, clearly. We are different as persons. But as consciousness, we must be one. Consciousness with a capital C. Not the felt consciousness which we have right now. Consciousness with a capital C. That's why Krishna says in the 13th chapter, in all beings I am the one consciousness. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. O Arjuna, in all fields I am the one field knower. Even more explicitly, he says, undivided in all beings, I appear as if divided. I am one and undivided in all beings. I appear as if divided. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam iva cha sthitam. I reside as if divided. We reside as if many divided consciousnesses. But Krishna claims it's actually one consciousness. So these are very radical things. But that's why Vedanta is beautiful. If it only told us what we knew, what good is it? But if it tells us stuff we didn't know, couldn't have conceived of, it's what Americans call mind-blowing. Thank you. Yes, you want to ask follow-up?
No, not follow-up. I had another question, but maybe.
Okay, later.
Yeah.
We have no time.
Pranam Maharaj, I'm Raven, and I have probably 2 or 3 questions. Sorry, I don't want to take.
Ask the top one.
Okay, I'll try to reduce it as much as I can. First one is that I think it was the first question which someone already asked, actually, how we can practice consciousness in real life. When I was trying to think about your answer and the way he was asking, maybe something came into my mind is that maybe one way we could practically do a practice on consciousness every day is like everyday experience, everyday life, we try to experience. Like for example, we're eating food. So when we are chewing something, we feel.
You are talking about mindfulness, you are talking about attention. But consciousness is not something to be practiced. Right now, suppose you are completely scattered, suppose you are not at all mindful. Are you conscious or not? Or are you unconscious? You are conscious. Consciousness is different from mindfulness. Consciousness is different even from self-consciousness. Consciousness is different from attention. It's just that which experiences. See, oh, my mind is so scattered. You experience scattered mind. That means you are conscious. My mind is very focused and attentive. You are experiencing that. That means you are conscious. So consciousness was there in scattered mind. Consciousness is there in focused mind. Difference is in concentration, in focus, in attention, but not in consciousness.
Okay. Now I see.
Another way will be easy. You're Revan.
Yeah.
So Revan. When the mind is scattered, am I there or not? Whose mind is scattered? Revan's mind. When the mind is focused, am I there or not? Whose mind is focused? Revan's mind. That Revan is consciousness.
Okay. I see. So yeah, it kind of answers. The second question is also something where more. Suppose one person is in a state of deep stress. So even if he is feeling the stress, means he is also conscious.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and I've also seen, right, like for example, certain saints, they can easily sense whether that person is feeling, whether the person is in deep anguish and everything. Is it like those people, those kind of saints, are in that deep state of consciousness that they can really sense that person's pain?
Yes, they can. It's not a state of consciousness. Consciousness, in fact, according to Vedanta, consciousness does not have states. The body has states: young age, old, healthy, diseased. The mind has states: waking, dreaming, sleeping, meditating, high on hallucinogens and whatnot. The mind has various states. Consciousness has no state. Consciousness is the ever-present awareness which gives us experience. But you're right. The saint, a spiritual person, genuinely spiritual person, has cultivated the mind to such an extent, the purity and the peace and a deep degree of sympathy with others. It can be cultivated to extraordinary extent, especially when you are less and less concerned about yourself and more concerned about others. Then you can actually feel the pain of others. There are many such examples. Some amazing things happen. When you feel the pain of others, their pain is reduced. It's almost as if you have shared it. It's almost as if we want somebody to understand our pain. Most people don't. They may express sympathy or they may not express sympathy. But a genuinely spiritual, genuinely loving person feels our pain. Yes. And that is the most healing thing you can have. To experience somebody who is on your side, who understands your problems, and who feels your problems and is totally on your side. That's a saint is like that. Thank you.
Hello Swamiji, my name is Mukta and I am listening to your lectures on YouTube and I really feel blessed to listen to you in person. From my limited understanding, I have a question regarding the subjective experiences that you mentioned. So is it true that we are just a reflection of the one supreme consciousness which is being called as Brahman Atman?
Stop there. This is a natural assumption to make, and I must tell you very strongly, no. You are not a reflection. We are not reflections. You are that, whatever you call it, one supreme consciousness, whatever you call it, you are that. You are not the reflection. It's like saying, when I look at a mirror, I can see my face in the mirror. Am I the reflected face or this one? It's an easy mistake to make. Because the problem with my real face is, I don't see my real face. I see the reflection. If somehow I was foolish enough to think, I am not this, then I would naturally think, I am that. See, there I am. Now think of the mirror, the mind as the mirror, and consciousness in the mind. That's called the reflected consciousness. And you are the real consciousness, Atman, Brahman, whatever you call it. The advantage of the reflected consciousness is you feel it. We all feel conscious. But this is what Vedanta calls reflected consciousness. It's consciousness in the mind, in the senses. That's what we feel. That's what consciousness studies is trying to study. Vedanta says that's not the original consciousness. The original consciousness is you. You are neither the mind nor the consciousness reflected in the mind. You are that which is reflected in the mind. You are the source of it. The sun, there's a pot. There's water in the pot. And the sun is reflected in that water. There will be a little sun in that water. It will also sparkle and it will give a little bit of light like the real sun. As many pots with water, so many reflected suns. Pots are like bodies. The water in the pots is like the mind. And the little sun sparkling in that water is like the reflected consciousness. We are not the little sun in there. We are the one real sun in the sky. That is the big jump we have to take. Because when you think like this, it's very natural to think, I am the reflection of supreme consciousness in this body mind. No, you are the supreme consciousness watching the body mind. For some strange reason you have forgotten yourself. That's why you think, I am this mukta.
Okay.
Vedanta introduces you to yourself, the capital S self. The small s mukta self to the capital S self, which is the real nature of mukta. Then after mukta will still continue. The pot will continue, the water will continue, the little reflected sun will continue, but never you will think of yourself, I am that pot, I am that water, or I am that little shining sun. They don't exist without me. Now the example is limited. There's a limit to which you can stretch the example.
Thank Thank you so much. What I understood or what I thought was that we are a reflection, and because of that, the subjective experiences are different. That's what was my.
Correct. You are right there. Because of the reflection, the pots are different, the water in the pots is different, and the little sun shining in each of the pots is different, and it gives rise to various differences in subjective experiences. But they are all illumined by one common consciousness, which we are. It also explains that if I am that one common consciousness, how come I don't know the contents of everybody's mind? I know only Buddha's mind. Because the one which knows that mind, Buddha's mind, is that little sun reflected in that little pot of water. That one is illumining that. And that's the one thinking, I know the contents of this pot of water. You are telling me I am shining on all pots, but I don't know the water in those pots. The knowledge is happening in that water, illumined by the little sun in that water. The illumination source of it all is you. It at present seems theoretical. It is not. That's the amazing thing. You are it already. But right now it seems theoretical. Right now we can identify the pot. We can identify the water. We can even identify the little consciousness in this water. Try to go from that little consciousness back to yourself. You will get a headache probably. But
Thank you so much.
We should wrap it up.
Yes. We have to wrap it up. So because we're running out of time, we have to vacate the hall as well. So I will invite Srinivas for the vote of thanks. And Sima, can you please come over? There are a few volunteers which has helped to manage the whole thing in such short notice. Can you also
Thank you so much for once again making it so easy, simple, palatable, open secret.
Open secret.
Which is consumable for all of us, and self-knowledge, right? So very, very easy, right?
Yeah, people are sort of, well, okay, again.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. I wanted to say two things here. One is for all of us who are come from outside of India or maybe other places as well, right? We need to drive this. Like the example of Siddhartha, right? Or Buddha. He had to go 6 years, change some 6 or 7 teachers. We don't have to do that. It's all available on YouTube. You just have to subscribe to the channel. It's all videos. I'm serious. Where you are sitting right now, you can be like that. I mean, as simple as that. Conditions apply, right? So, but it just is easy. If he had a mobile, smartphone, and YouTube, Siddhartha would have got enlightened in his palace. Trust me, he would have. He's a smart guy, right? So he knows what to accept. Otherwise, he rejected teachers. How many of you have rejected your teachers? No, right? But you are scrolling and selecting the videos talking about. You're not watching any junk. So it is on your palm right now. It is with you, right? So we should listen to the teachers teaching us. It's available always. And Swamiji has running classes on a weekly basis and monthly basis on Upanishads. You should be part of those groups and exchange knowledge and ask questions. He's available always. You can ask questions there and he can answer. You don't have to wait for him to come here. He can always answer questions on Vivekananda Study Circle. Right? So you can, if you are out there, you don't have to go 6 years searching for him. He's available on your fingertips. So ask any question and then get the clarification. That's for all of us, but for our kids, next generation. We have a background. We are born in a, we are blessed and we're born in a place where the culture is part of our life. But for our kids, that's going to be a missing point. So please get them to the temple, right? That's for them, for the next generation. So that the foundation is laid, and when they are ready for this knowledge, it's available at their fingertips. When they grow, even though it is on their fingertips,
they don't know what to select. So bring them to the temple, bring them here, so that they know, they tell you to apply. Right? So with those 2 words, thank you so much once again, and thanks everybody who helped in organizing this. Thanks, Taro and Swami again for having You can stand there, so they will have a group.
Just stand there.